Well, hello and welcome to the Shallow Proclamation. My name's Paul, and I'm joined by,
Thomas,
and
hello.
we are, hello, we are about to watch the next story in season 7. We've watched all of Spearhead from Space. We thought that was a really strong start to the Pertwee era. We're about to dive into this story now. Bear with me, Thomas. The story is called Doctor Who and the Silurians.
Hmm.
Now, you did very well in Spearhead from Space, guessing partway through that it featured the Autons. Uh, you won't win any points in this one for guessing who the sort of main alien, well, not aliens, main monsters are.
Is it the
Uh,
Daleks?
um, let's come back to the title in a moment.
Yeah.
So it's a seven-parter. It's broadcast the 31st of January to the 14th of March 1970, directed by Timothy Combe, written by Malcolm Hulke. Now, there was a miscommunication apparently. So this is the only Doctor Who story I think in the history of the main show,
Yeah.
which is called Doctor Who and something or other. Doctor Who and the Silurians. That's its official name. Um, Lots of people will just call it the Silurians. Um, so apparently it was due to a miscommunication with the graphics department who were putting together the titles. So I think a lot of the shows were called, like in production, there was a lot of, I think some of them were known as like, Doctor Who and the Gunfighters, Doctor Who and the Daleks or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that was always cut off the thing. So there are some people who will say this is clearly evidence that the name of the Doctor is Doctor Who. His name is Doctor Who because it's called Doctor Who and the Silurians. I mean, obviously they're wrong, and if you're watching and you think that, you're wrong. Probably not a real fan either. Uh, no, but anyway, so yeah, it's a strange curiosity in that sense, in the title there being called Doctor Who and the Silurians. So I think that is actually going to pop up on screen. Um,
Yes. That's really interesting. I hadn't actually clocked that, but yeah, that is a disturbing title, isn't it? Because
yeah,
if it was Doctor Who colon the Silurians, you wouldn't bat an eyelid, but it's
although I must say that apparently it was the case that there's an episode of The Chase because they had episode titles, didn't they? That one of them is called The Death of Doctor Who,
oh, is it?
and the story before The Savages, when it said like the next episode, it said the next story was going to be called Doctor Who and the Savages, so that cropped up on the end of the story before Doctor
Huh.
Who and the Savages, but it wasn't called that in the actual story. So there you go, little curiosities there for the
Don't the War
trivia fans.
Machines, isn't it in the War Machines he's called Doctor Who at some point within the story as well? Is that
Doctor Who
so?
is required. That's what
Yes, yes.
Doctor, comma who is required.
Yeah, that's how we resolve it in our heads.
Yeah. So yeah, should we dive on in?
Let's do it.
I
Now,
should have said like subscribe, all
oh
those
yeah,
things, all the usual.
all that good YouTube stuff. And join our Discord by clicking the link in the description below. Now, just a thing people might have noticed, I actually have to mute the Doctor Who theme in our videos at the moment because for some reason this didn't happen with the previous series, but this slightly new theme
Oh,
um, gets blocked in Russia and Belarus.
and as you know, we've got quite a big following amongst the
Yes.
Russians.
So I'm going to start muting it now so it doesn't get blocked. So if you're watching in Russia and Belarus, sorry you couldn't watch the previous couple of
Yeah.
episodes. We're back now.
Apologies, Vladimir Putin. Know you're a big fan.
So the quality of the image has gone down slightly since
Spearhead.
Spearhead, of course, as you mentioned.
We're now in the studio, back on videotape.
But it's not. It's still really nice to have the color, isn't it? And it's not noticeably like, ugh.
I think what we're also going to see in this story is the first use in Doctor Who of
Spencer.
so. But this is quite good.
So that was that a Silurian? I vaguely recognised it.
No.
No, it wasn't, was it? Because they're more humanoid, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because I remember
although,
it was a Matt Smith two-parter, wasn't it, that did the Silurians?
Yes. This is the first story in Doctor Who that's going to see quite a lot of use of something called CSO, colour separation overlay.
Oh, okay.
So Doctor Who was pushing the boundaries with sort of green screen sort of technology.
I was very lucky to get her.
Are you really going to drive about?
Right.
So we'll have to see what that looks like.
I'm going to finish the modifications. Thought we might take her out for a trial run in a minute.
Have we established yet who the new companions are? I mean, this lady's been around quite a lot, but...
He's away, isn't he? Investigating some sound.
I mean, well, she is the companion. Yeah.
Right, yeah. I don't think we actually really talked about that in our Spearhead reaction. I kind of assumed she was, but...
Well, you don't really have that kind of moment of they go in the TARDIS and go off with the Doctor, do you? So,
Well, exactly.
what do we think of the Doctor's car?
Well, that's pretty cool. I know he wanted a car, didn't he?
So the car is called Bessie.
Bessie.
Yeah. Now this guy, he's going to return in some later Doctor Who. He's quite a iconic character later on. So it's good to see him here.
Is he? I've heard he's a pretty major baker. Paul Hollywood.
The Mary Berry of his day.
I mean, that cape is bold, isn't it? It's a look.
It's a statement. I was thinking the other day, I was just at work, I was just walking along and I thought, you know, I think we should bring back capes. I'd be quite happy in a cape.
Yeah.
Longer than that, I'd want a long cape, but you could wrap around yourself, you know.
Not proposing to dismantle a piece of equipment worth £15 million with a screwdriver.
It's not worth 15 million pins if it doesn't work.
Think how much £15 million was in 1970.
Oh. Inflation. What would that
Yeah.
be today? Double?
Exactly. Probably more. Way
Yeah.
more.
As soon as you've anything to report. You'll see that our work is disrupted as
Let us know in the comments.
Adjusted for inflation, what is £15 million in 1970? Today.
Today's money.
Yes.
I don't even know if they're on the old decimal system at this point.
Do you know what the highest grossing film of all time is, adjusted for inflation?
I think I had heard before, but no.
I believe it is Gone with the Wind.
Ah, yes. Well, you know what, Thomas?
Go
It's
on.
great that you've brought that bit of information, but frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Have you ever watched the TV show Porridge with Roddy Barker?
No.
Oh, well, you won't recognise this actor then.
Oh, okay.
He's Mr. I think his name's Fulton Mackay, but he actually plays a character called Mr. Mackay in Porridge. He's the head of the prison.
Is he in Cobra Kai?
Yeah.
Cobra Mackay.
That would be a decision for the director.
A decision he might be reluctant to make.
Director who?
Says the research program very much.
Timothy Coombe is the director.
Ah. That would be a decision for the director. Yeah, that was a meta moment.
It's very, yeah.
He looks past the camera. Well, that would be a decision for the director.
There's something about like this kind of set is very sort of it screams kind of very bland 1970s to me.
Yeah.
Interesting use of pinks and purples on the wall.
Yeah.
Strange choice.
Do you think that connotes wealth and status?
Yeah, maybe so.
He looks a bit like an elf from that angle, doesn't he? His ear.
His ear, yeah.
Oh, splendid. Just the chap I wanted to see. Now, look, this patient of yours.
I like the word chap.
Chap, yeah. Old chap.
We don't say it much now, do we?
No. Right then, chaps. Come along, chaps.
Great, chaps. Should we make our way downstairs? Of another time, isn't it? It's great.
Yeah.
Do you ever say chums?
Rarely. No.
Yeah.
Chum the water.
We're quite chummy, aren't we?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Got a sort of chumbly move.
Chumbly.
We have now switched to a greener lighting to connote envy and sickness. This is the thing. Now we're seeing colours in Doctor Who with there's so many avenues to explore, aren't there? What do the colours mean? We've not seen this before.
Could be a whole video in itself.
Yeah. Like the red cape. Why was it red? Could have been any colour. They chose
true.
red for the Doctor. I wonder why. It provokes hunger. That's why it's used in fast food logos. The Doctor always makes you hungry for more. Sorry, I'll shut up. He's quite calm and level, isn't he, Pertwee's Doctor, from what we've seen of him so far.
Yeah,
We
I'd
haven't
say
seen
so.
him like lose his rag in the way that Troughton did yet. But I mean, obviously there's a long way to go, but he seems quite unruffleable.
That's a good description. Unruffleable.
Mark Ruffalo.
He is also one of the few Doctors who you'll probably see wearing a ruff.
Right. Rough and ready.
More of a cravat. So, you know.
Yeah.
There's the reactor again.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
It is quite nicely done.
Exactly a little Sherlock Holmes yourself, are you?
It's another power failure. Come on, Dr. Watson.
Hey.
I do like their Brigadier's banter with the Doctor.
Yeah, that's a good joke as well, isn't it? Because Watson is a doctor. I'm intrigued by how the Silurians are going to enter, because I know they live underground, but what is going to cause them to emerge? I think it might have something to do with this nuclear reactor.
Chekhov's nuclear reactor.
Like Donna's massive sausage roll and the Star Beast that hasn't been picked up yet. Maybe RTD will bring it into the finale.
I think so. Did you know, Thomas, that all the music in this story was recorded using like clarinets and recorders and things like that?
Oh, really?
Yeah, cellos, horns.
Wow.
Cello.
You got a bass. Do you think the use of wind instruments is to evoke the tube-like nature of the cave?
I think exactly that.
Oh. I mean, it's... Sorry, I know I laughed. That's a bit harsh. But that was actually pretty well done. I mean, I wouldn't know where to begin in making something like that. It is just a little bit funny, isn't it? And the Doctor's reaction, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've often thought this. There's a number of scenes in Doctor Who and possibly other things where someone's reaction to something like that is to go like this.
Yeah, which you
And I
would
think-
never do.
No one would ever react like that to anything. I mean, just that's not what you would do
I can speak from experience on this. Well,
when you were menaced by that dinosaur.
no, I was at a firework display and a firework went off and got stuck in a tree about a meter from where I was standing.
Wow.
And you could see it was about to go off, and I just stood there like rooted to the spot, and then it went off, and the tree kind of contained it, thankfully. But I was like, why didn't I run? But it's weird, in those situations you're just like sometimes just rooted.
Yeah, and you didn't even think to go.
No, I didn't.
Dear me.
No, I thought that was quite entertaining. I mean, again, we've still got the Doctor, without his TARDIS, and still with the Brigadier, same crowd, but new location, so that's expanded it a bit. And I thought they built the tension quite well. There's this cyclotron thing, and there's a room where people who work there a lot are being affected, and there's clearly something living in the caves. This dinosaur thing, which isn't a Silurian, but is maybe somehow connected to the Silurians. So I'll be intrigued to see how that comes about. But yeah, and a promising opening episode, I'd say. What about you?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. It's, you got to remember, it's the first of a seven-parter. So you think back to some people have mentioned in the comments that the invasion in the previous series was supposed to be a bit of a test for this season, almost this kind of format. Obviously, Spearhead from Space is just 4 episodes, very very punchy, very quick. Whereas this story, and actually this story and the 2 remaining stories after this in the season are all 7-parters, I think.
Wow.
So yeah, I think we're not going to have quite so much of those bang off you go type things. So there's a bit of kind of world building, which some people might see as a bit slow, but I'm quite happy with it. If you're invested in it, I think that's okay. Yeah, I mean, I thought there's nice little things. We're getting a little bit of more of Pertwee and getting more of a sense of him. It's good to see his relationship with the Brigadier. That was one of my highlights. I think the banter between them,
The sass.
the sass, yeah, the Brigadierial sass, and so I think that's good. And obviously, we've got the introduction of things like Bessie the car. I mean, what are you making of this? Because it's very different, isn't it, already to anything we've had before? It's different to Troughton, it's different to Hartnell, it's different just in terms of feel, format. Obviously, we've got Liz as well turning up as a sort of companion. I mean, just obviously early days, but throw some thoughts at the screen.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, well, what's striking about it is it's very Earthbound, isn't it? Which is an obvious point to make.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about that is that's actually kind of what I'm used to in the modern era to a degree, is that was RTD's big thing, whether when he revived it, was that it was all about every story had to go back to Earth, and all the episodes of Christopher Eccleston Series 1 take place on Earth at some point in time or in Earth orbit.
Yeah.
So that's been quite interesting. Troughton was incredibly... well, Troughton, a lot of his stories were on Earth, actually, but up to this point, the show has been all over the galaxy, really. So it's interesting they're going for a more anchored, grounded approach, more human-based stories, which I think actually serves it quite well, because you can relate to it more in some ways. Like the Web Planet, incredibly ambitious. I don't feel the plight of the Zarbi and the Menoptera in the way that I do with these miners.
Yeah.
So that they're both, cave stories in a way, but yeah.
Very different types of caves. Yeah, and I think it's only really just dawned on me that it not only is it Earthbound, but it's largely contemporary to the viewer as well, isn't it? So at the time, although there is some controversy around the dating of the stories featuring Unit, which we won't dive into today, it basically feels like if you're a viewer in 1970, it feels like it's set in 1970, basically, doesn't it?
Yes, the technology and stuff is definitely of the 70s.
So that's quite a change in feel as well. So it gives it a much more grounded, gritty sort of realism in some ways. But yeah, so it's interesting, isn't it? It's quite a change of direction, and but interesting to see how that develops through the season and remaining seasons.
Yeah. And there are only 4 stories in this season, is that right?
Yeah.
So it's a shorter season format. What was the thinking behind that? You may have touched on that before, but
I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, I think they realised there had been some complaints, I think, from Troughton and previous cast members about the rigorous schedule, because often there wasn't a huge break. They basically just filmed each week. You'd rehearse a few days, and then on Friday you'd come and you'd film the thing. I don't know if it's switched entirely at this point, or whether it switched earlier, or whether it happened a bit later. Rather than just running pretty much through the year, it was a contained season, and I think it was largely, if not entirely, filmed before it was broadcast. Everything was done and dusted and in the can like you'd expect it to be done today. So I don't know whether that was part of it. I'm sure someone else can shed more light on that and all the specifics of it. So I think it's to do with those things, though.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think it must have been absolutely crippling to do basically every week of the year an episode.
Yeah, give or take, the very short break. I mean, and the fact that, we saw the way that affected stories was that actors went on a holiday, you just had to write them out for a couple of weeks, whereas, of course, now you just say, look, you need to come and film this series for 2-3 months and that's it. And then you can go off and do what you like.
Yeah, it's a very different format of TV now, isn't it? It's basically like cinema now, really post-production heavy. Whereas I guess around this time, there are some line fluffs and stuff, and it's not the most polished thing, but they're getting out a lot of episodes. Yeah. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. Do subscribe if you'd like to stay in the loop, and we will be back soon.
Bye-bye.